this aircraft. Already on the apron, in front of the plane, some of the Kennedy party have gathered. Pierre Salinger has gotten here. His bags have gone aboard. Frank Mankiewicz has come here. A number of the Kennedy staff, Mayor Yorty, flew in by helicopter. The airplane has been here for some time, arriving this morning in a perfect landing and is taxiing over to this West Imperial Gate and standing here, being refueled and then being moved out a little farther for the convenience of the persons who are going to go aboard. And a crowd of, it's hard to estimate crowds always, but several thousand people, not a large crowd. And I'm talking to them, I find that many of the people in the crowd are people who are attached to the Kennedy crusade in one way or another, people who have worked for the Kennedy headquarters, people who have worked for the Kennedy operation, have stood here for several hours not knowing when the plane would leave, when the family would arrive, have stood here patiently and watched, and now watch Pierre Salinger as he paces up and down restlessly, waiting to see the arrival of the motorcade. The sun finally came out after a gloomy and overcast morning, and it is now cool, breezy, sunny, crisp, and comfortable here at Los Angeles Airport as the crowd waits. There was a little confusion at first about this airplane because everybody had thought it would be number 97200, which is the plane that President Johnson used on his tour of the world last year. It is actually the same plane, we're informed, but has been somewhat rebuilt, new tail assembly, and therefore has gotten this new number, the number of the plane now, 86972. It is also, ironically, the very plane on which Pierre Salinger was flying to Japan in November of 1963 when he got word aboard the plane that President Kennedy had been killed. And this plane, with Pierre Salinger and the cabinet members going to a conference in Japan, was turned around over the Pacific and flown back to Washington for the funeral cortege for President Kennedy. Now it stands here waiting for the president's younger brother, Robert Kennedy, the senator from New York, the campaigner for the presidency, to take him back first to New York, and then he goes from there, as you know, by train to Washington to be buried in Arlington Cemetery near his brother, the president. There's going to be a very considerable guest list aboard this plane. When I got here first, I saw them removing one of the plywood and plastic partitions which divides the cabin of the plane so that some of the group could sit together in one compartment. Now let's go back to John Hart at the hospital downtown.
The motorcade appears to be forming. There is a group of motorcycle police at the corner of Lucas Street, which passes by the senator's window. He was on the 5th floor corner, southeast corner of this hospital. As you can see, there are, again, crowd estimates, but let's say at least 1,000 people gathered on all the corners and around this hospital, waiting to grieve with and to see the members of the family. This is the casket-bearing ambulance in front. The senator resides solid African mahogany, dark wood casket, purchased here in Los Angeles this morning by Senator Edward Kennedy. He rests on the blue satin-lined interior. The casket has no handles. It is a very simple one. And if it is used for burial, the pallbearers will carry him on their shoulders. It is difficult to see the identity of the people in the cars. But we know who they are: Mrs. Kennedy, Mrs. Ethel Kennedy, and the other widow Kennedy, Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy. The 3 children, Kathleen, Joseph, and Robert, Senator Edward Kennedy. It was interesting, a point of note, that along with the simplicity of that solid African dark wood mahogany casket, it was moderately priced. Now, the similarity that we mentioned in the beginning is being hinted at again from the open spaces and begin to follow the cars. That happened in city after city, from Indiana to Nebraska to even in Oregon a couple of times, and all over California. The motorcade, and again, the Kennedy people find no irreverence in calling this a motorcade, because they were engaged in a great political effort. They were professional politicians and reveled in it. They were trying to perform what they called was a revolution. And talking about it this morning, they just didn't mind calling it a motorcade. In fact, this motorcade was being advanced by Jerry Bruno, a man who was the super advanced man for Senator Kennedy, the one in charge of all the advanced men, a tough guy. And he was hoping, as we said earlier, for good crowds for this motorcade. The senator would like it, Bruno told me. He loved crowds. Mike Wallace, we're seeing now a shot from the KTLA helicopter of what appears to be the Harbor Freeway, which will carry the senator's body and his family and close friends out to Los Angeles International Airport. Say again. Yes, they gave me a monitor just in time. I've got two monitors now, an air monitor and our line monitor. How long did we wait to do it right? Okay. We need to know if they turn on the Santa Monica Freeway. I can talk if you want me to talk over this stuff. It's a hot bite? It's a hot bite?
I don't know. John wants to know if this is a hot man. Dave? Dave? Boy, you go in and ask him if this is a hot night. I can't read. In the truck, it can't be hot.
A number of cars have now arrived with some of the members of the party. The advance part of the cortege now here at the airport. Let me pause a moment till the plane gets over. Richard Tuck of the Senator's staff, Pierre Salinger, who's been doing much of the advance work and has been alternating with Frank Mankiewicz, who is also here in delivering some of the statements. A number of the friends of the family arriving now. Some of their suitcases have already gone on board. Cars moving up to this plane, one of the three planes that is occasionally known as Air Force One when the President is aboard. I'm afraid this is one of the hazards of broadcasting from an airport, and we're going to be interrupted frequently because traffic, normal air traffic, is continuing on the other side of this airport, while this West Imperial Gate, which is used for such arrivals and departures. There's Frank Mankiewicz talking to, well, he has his back to me, I can't see at the moment. As Frank Mankiewicz talks to some of the guests arriving here, a sort of an informal line has spread up. It's not organized, it's not any kind of a receiving line, it's just that people have strung themselves out along facing the plane as they wait. Nobody knows exactly what the order of events will be, but they are there waiting for the arrival of the funeral car, the main part of the cortege itself. As the family and friends gather here, chatting casually with Mayor Yorty, with other local officials, officials at the airport, officials of Los Angeles, the county. And as the Air Force aides maintain their vigil over the plane, the plane, which has been here now some several hours, carefully kept under the rigid security of the United States Air Force, which flies and maintains it. This particular plane piloted by Major Warren Smith. The spectators behind us, waiting silently, watching the official party gather, waiting for the moment when what they've all come to see happens, the arrival of the cortege itself bearing the body of Senator Kennedy. As I believe I remarked before, a chat with most of the small but silent and tense and emotion-filled crowd here. Tense is not perhaps the word, but saddened and emotion-filled crowd here. It turns out that a great many of them have had definite and direct connection with Senator Kennedy or his political activity here, that they have worked with the party headquarters, that they have been Kennedy volunteers. Many of them sport buttons on their lapels proclaiming their activities for the Kennedy organization. And now several police cars arriving, at the far end of the airport. But I still don't see, from here at least, I don't believe our helicopter has shown the arrival of the cortege itself. The crowd waiting behind has been patient, has been quiet, as usual, sometimes irritated by the intervention of camera trucks between them and what they've come to see. They've watched with interest some of the things which have been happening here, moving up of stairs to the rear door of the airplane, the stairs through which the family will mount, the family and the people traveling aboard this plane will mount when they come, watching in silence as the red carpet was unrolled at the rear stairs, and watching an interesting and unusual thing. Two ladies brought in and gave to the air police first, and then were escorted to meet some of the Kennedy party, brought in large bundle of flowers, red and white carnations, green leaves and ferns, and these have been arranged along the red carpet leading to the rear stairs and form a path of flowers on either side of the red carpet, a path of flowers between which the family will walk as it mounts the stairs to the rear of the airplane. And there has been, too, at the front of the plane, a brief rehearsal of the operation by which the coffin will be placed on a lift truck and then by a sort of lazy tongs arrangement lifted up to the front door of the airplane, the door through which ordinarily the President of the United States enters this aircraft. The body will be lifted up to that front door and carried aboard. Perhaps to make it easier to maneuver the coffin inside the airplane itself, a pause for another takeoff. Perhaps to make it easier for the coffin itself to be maneuvered around the corner and into the plane, air crewmen, the members of the crew and staff of the United States Air Force unit which serves the President of the United States aboard this plane, have removed from inside one of those movable plywood and plastic partitions which divide the plane ordinarily into various sections, removed it, carried it out and placed it on a truck, and it was driven off. And now the plane has one less compartment wall inside it. And as I say, presumably this will be to allow the coffin to make that awkward turn just inside the door between the crew cabin and the forward VIP passenger cabin of this plane. The activity at the airport has a somewhat disconcerting effect on the group gathered here. It's very hard to greet old friends, to express emotions of condolence and misery with the party whom you haven't seen for some time, when you're interrupted every few moments by a massive jetliner soaring overhead. Now we see again the cortege moving along the highway. Cortege moving along the freeway, making its way towards the West Imperial Gate of the airport, the gate at which ordinarily charter planes, campaign planes, VIPs of all kinds arrive for special arrival ceremonies at this airport. This is the cortege itself, which those people who have arrived here in separate cars, campaign cars, some of them, now stripped of their campaign insignia, now just plain conveyances, have brought friends and Kennedy staff to the airport, here to await the arrival of this cortege making its way along the highway, moving steadily across the city of Los Angeles to this airport and the beginning of the long trip from Los Angeles across the country to New York. There, the ceremonies in St. Patrick's Cathedral, the lying in state tomorrow. Then to Washington, D.C., past the scenes of Senator Kennedy's past effort and endeavor, the Senate Office Building, the Justice Department. And on finally to Mike, as I look at the group gathering before me here to accompany the Kennedy family to New York, you are forced to think, one is immediately driven to the recollection of what a burden of tragedy this plane carries. Charles Evers, brother of Medgar Evers, slain, assassinated, his murderer never convicted, his murderer never apparently found to the satisfaction of the jury. Mrs. Martin Luther King is to be here, although I haven't seen her here yet. She may be in the cortege. Mrs. Martin Luther King, one of 3 widows of assassinations who will be on this plane. Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy, Mrs. Ethel Kennedy. What a burden of death and sadness and sorrow this plane is going to carry back. What a gathering together in one place of the proof that to be eminent and to strive for a cause in America is to risk, as Senator Kennedy and before him his brother John F. Kennedy so often said. It isn't worth it if you're not taking chances for it. It's not a real effort if you're not laying yourself on the line, if you're not sticking your neck out. And here, gathered in one plane at one airport, the families of men who have made the worthwhile gamble, who've stuck their neck out for some causes they believed in, and who are now dead, and their families are trying to carry on. Charles Evers, leader of the NAACP in Mississippi, in his dead brother's place. Mrs. Martin Luther King carrying on in the place of her, and the 2 Mrs. Kennedys, one a new widow, one a widow of some 4.5 years. Again, the thing that everybody here at the airport is waiting for, the cortege. The funeral car making its way along the freeway, viewed from the KTLA helicopter as it approaches, as it moves along the highways towards the Los Angeles airport. And at the airport still, more local officials have arrived, but it is a, how shall I say, a small, a manageable group. It is not a large outpouring of persons, not a large outpouring of people who've come here, just those who feel they have some connection, some right to be in at this particular moment. Gathered still, now in little clumps, talking to each other when permitted to, when there's a lull in the noise of the planes passing overhead, and now struggling as they must against the noise of the electrical charging apparatus, delivering current into the plane itself, keeping its engines warm and ready for instant start and takeoff when the funeral car is still moving along the freeway, still approaching the airport. When they actually get here, the plane will be ready for swift takeoff. There will be no delays, no long warm-up and takeoff period. This is a plane which is accustomed to starting almost instantly. When the President of the United States, for example, goes aboard this plane on one of his trips, the engines ordinarily start almost simultaneously. The plane wheels around and takes off. There is no lost time. It is never seen sitting on the airport, checking itself, checking out its engines and all its apparatus. It is a plane ready to go. And standing here now again, ready to go as soon as the moment arrives, as soon as the Kennedy family arrives. That particularly loud noise then reminding us that this is once again also an airport used for military purposes, a jet fighter streaking off into the sky. People who have been standing here on the airport waiting patiently have been getting word by the usual means, the ever-present walkie-talkie by which all members of all politicians' staffs nowadays are connected with one another so that they can report where they are, what their needs are, what their problems are, so that the organization of any campaign or of any movement, such as this one here, can be swiftly coordinated, all its parts brought together smoothly with a minimum of waiting, because time is always of the essence in campaigning. And so a campaign machine, and this group gathered here on the apron outside the airplane, is basically still a campaign machine, although now without an object, without a head. This campaign machine, well-oiled, smoothly running, even though sometimes, as all campaigns must be, slowly. There, once again, Charles Evers, who has been associated with the Kennedy campaign out here, talking to friends at the airport. Once again, cars arriving on the far side of the apron, but not, I repeat, not part of the cortege. It's just some of the advance police and airport security cars moving into position, making a report and moving out again, stationing themselves in preparation for the arrival of the funeral cars when they do arrive. The list of persons who are going to accompany this, who are going to fly on this plane back to New York City, is a long one, but it's headed, of course, by the members of the senator's family. I've already detailed some of them. I believe I haven't mentioned that the three older Kennedy sons are going to be aboard, but that has perhaps been said often enough by now so that the picture is fairly clear. Mrs. Kennedy to be aboard, Frank Mankiewicz, press secretary, Keir Salinger, who's been acting as an alternative spokesman, Dick Tuck, others of the campaign staff who have followed Senator Kennedy everywhere he has gone will follow him once again. First to New York, then south to Washington. It's a little hard for some of the people here, some of the officials, men who've been with the Kennedy family, to get used to the sound of the airplanes crashing overhead at so solemn a moment as this, because when this plane is in fact Air Force One, and it is called Air Force One only when the President of the United States is flying on it, when he's aboard or about to go aboard, When this is in fact Air Force One, there are no other commercial aircraft taking off, crashing through the noise barrier around the plane when it sits on the apron, because when the President of the United States, and all of these men have worked with and around a President of the United States, when a President of the United States approaches his airplane on the edge of a commercial airport like this, other traffic stops. Now once again, view of the approaching, I can't quite see what it is. Yes. Mike, the police and the officials of Los Angeles have worked with utmost care, have been utterly scrupulous in their entire handling of this, so much so that in a rather unusual news conference yesterday, the Southern California branch of the American Civil Liberties Union warmly commended them for the care they have taken and for the scrupulously safeguarded statements they have made throughout about the persons who have been seized and who have been taken, especially Siran. Now around the corner, curving out onto this apron here at West Imperial Terminal of the airport, the funeral car, the cortege, police car and motorcycle, and then the funeral car followed by a series of
would just like to stand between you. I'll accommodate myself to your needs rather than... Can I have a little more cable, please?
Did you get your mic checked?
All right. Would you like another mic check? Los Angeles police revealed a lead today which indicates that more than one person may have been involved in the assassination of Robert Kennedy. More? An all-points bulletin was issued 12 hours following the shooting for a young white woman, the so-called girl in the polka dot dress. Police are also looking for another tall young white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present Tuesday night, is one of several who claims to have seen the missing two with the alleged assailant. Is the mic checked out?
Okay. Do you want to rehearse again?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Stand by for rehearsal.
Los Angeles police revealed today that more than one person may have been involved in the assassination of Robert Kennedy. An all-points bulletin was issued 12 hours after the shooting for a young white woman, the girl in the polka dot dress. And police are also looking for a young, tall white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter present at the hotel on Tuesday night, is one of several persons who claims to have seen the missing two people talking with the alleged assassin. And once more. No, once more. That's all there is to it. Los Angeles police revealed today a lead which may indicate... You ready? All right.
Okay.
The attending physicians were able to remove as many of the fragments as they did. This statement by Dr. Maguchi, the chief medical examiner of Los Angeles, was given.
At this hour, the coffee hearing about Senator Robert Kennedy has left the airfield in Los Angeles about 4 hours. The Air Force
Yes.
is now in the air, heading to LaGuardia Airfield here in New York.
Los Angeles police revealed today a lead which indicates that another... Los Angeles police revealed today a lead which indicates that more than one person may have been involved in the assassination of Robert Kennedy. An all-points bulletin was issued some 12 hours after the shooting for a young white woman, the girl in the polka dot dress. Police are also looking for another young, tall white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present at the hotel on Tuesday night, is one of several persons who claims to have seen the two missing people together with the alleged assassin. And once more. Los Angeles police revealed today a new lead which indicates that more than one person may have been responsible for the assassination of Robert Kennedy. An all-points bulletin was issued some 12 hours after the shooting by police for a young white girl, the so-called girl in the polka dot dress. And police are also looking for another young, tall white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present at the hotel on Tuesday night, is one of several persons who claims to have seen the two missing people together with the alleged assassin.
Okay, we
All right.
Roll tape, stand by. Here we go.
The necessity of Shirhan receiving a fair trial.
Tapes rolling.
He thought about all of
Stand
that
by.
when he went ahead and revealed what he did, that he thought people have a right to know some of these things. On this matter, NBC News correspondent Robert Abernathy has some thoughts. He has gathered some information, and he is...
Los Angeles police revealed today a new lead which may indicate that more than one person might have been involved in the assassination of Robert Kennedy. An all-points bulletin was issued some 12 hours after the shooting for a young white woman, the so-called girl in the polka dot dress. And police are also looking for another possible accomplice, a tall, young white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present at the hotel... Sorry. Los Angeles police revealed today a new lead which indicates that more than one person may have been responsible for the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy. An all-points bulletin was issued by police some 12 hours after the shooting for a young white woman, the so-called girl in the polka dot dress. And police are also looking for a tall, young white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present at the hotel on Tuesday night, is one of several persons who claims to have seen the missing two people together with the alleged assassin. Should be a take.
Check it before you leave.
Check.
Very good. The best piece of the day.
Wonderful. What happened to the rest of the
Whatever
day?
that means. Take that however you like it.
Which day are you talking about? Police are also looking for a tall, white man. Booker Griffin, a Kennedy supporter who was present at the hotel on Tuesday night, is one of several persons who claims to have seen the missing two people together with the alleged assassin.